So I guess the story of how the FCC transformed and modernized itself begins about two and a half years ago, in which there were 207 different IT systems, all on-premise, consuming more than 85% of our budget just to maintain them. The average age of the systems were more than 10 years old. And there were two probably interesting waypoints along the way. I'll tell the first one and you can tell the second one.
Okay.
The first one was when we wanted to demonstrate that you could go to public cloud with speed, where we were looking at our new consumer help desk center. The existing one was 15 years old, 18 different forms. And that system, if it was to be modernized in terms of doing it on premise, was going to cost about $3.4 million and take about 18 months to do. And thanks to some of our change agents, including Dusty Lown and others, we demonstrated that it was possible to do it instead, go straight to the public cloud at $450,000 and 1/6 the price. So 1/6 the price, also getting it done in less than 60 days, and then another 4 months to roll it out. So that showed we could go to public cloud with speed. Now, clearly not everything we had at the FCC could go to the cloud right away, although that's the goal. And so that leads to Operation Server Lift. And I'll let Christine tell that part.
All right. So when I came on board, we were in the beginnings of Operation Server Lift. So we had to take a look at basically the inventory that we had, take a look at all the servers we had at headquarters, and actually initiate a contract to hire somebody to help us physically move all the hardware from our current location to the public cloud. So we worked for about a good solid 8 months, beginning with contract award, ascertaining our inventory, looking at how we're going to plan the shutdown, actually move the hardware, actually transport the hardware, and then actually stand up the hardware in the new location and get the applications running. So that in itself was a feat, and we did that over the Labor Day weekend last year with a group of multiple contractors, which was from the operations infrastructure team to the application team to test the applications to make sure they went live, and then to actually the green light to David to say, yes, we're up and running, so that he could brief the chairman. So that was a feat in itself, and I think the biggest thing for us was really communication and coordination to get it all done. So, really a team effort.
I think, and that's what I really want to stress, is modernization is a team sport. I mean, sort of like what we're embodying here, no one person has all the answers. I trust Christine when she takes the lead on things, and she also hopefully defers to me on things where I need to be the diplomat or the human flak jacket. What did we get as a result of our modernization and Operation Server Lift? Instead of spending 85% on maintaining our systems, it's now less than 50%. But also what did we get is, instead of it taking now 6 months to 9 months if someone wants to modify a system, you can come to us with new requirements, and in less than 48 hours, we have a working prototype. So I often say that modernization is first and foremost about agility. Second, it's about resiliency, so you can scale better with the cloud. And then finally, actually having efficiency. 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 So my first thought is we would really have liked to have had that fund about 2 years ago.
I would agree.
Because our challenge was FCC's not seen a budget increase for more than 6 years now. And so we had to do our modernization within the budget we had. And the challenge is without getting an increase in budget, that's why we had to do certain things like Operation Server Lift, where we actually had to take the hardware we currently had. I mean, some of it we were able to retire. We did retire 2 Sun E25K 1-ton systems.
Huge systems, yes.
But we couldn't do what would be ideal, which is create a mirrored copy of what you currently have somewhere else, verify it's working, and then turn the switch. I mean, we literally had to disconnect things at FCC, 7 different trucks, 400 terabytes of data, and that's a little bit more risky. So I think having a modernization fund may give the fuel necessary to sort of initially make that investment that saves you money down the road without agencies having to be as crossing the chasm or jumping the chasm as we did. You have thoughts?
I agree. And the other thing, too, to add to that is the fact that while we are trying to modernize, we still have to maintain what we currently have. So we'd like to see that switch where we could use that modernization money, continue to turn off stuff that we don't need, by leveraging cloud services and gaining more efficiencies by reusing some of the services, some of the functionality that the cloud platform offers to us, 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 offers.
So actually, I'm going to say the biggest challenge we have is actually not technology, but humans.
Agree.
Humans
Agree.
Humans are not prone to change. Even if they're not happy with the current status quo, the status quo is at least a known entity, it's knowable, and it's not as risky as the unknown. And so making change requires you to get the people beyond IT, the people in the different programmatic elements, but also your external stakeholders, and getting them involved with why do you need to change, why is the status quo no longer working, and getting them to buy into the fact that it may be bumpy along the way, but will get you to a better place at the end of the day. And that's really hard. And the moment anything goes wrong, then they're going to be frustrated and everything like that. Or even if it's going wrong not because of modernization, it's just the nature of a blip, they will have concerns that somehow shifting away from the status quo caused it.
I would agree. I would agree. I think the biggest key barrier, I would say, is people, right? And the need and want for change. And I think the biggest thing, and I said this about a couple of weeks ago when we did an IT focus group, is everybody changes their phones every 2 years, and they don't seem to have a problem with changing their phones every 2 years. But when IT happens within their agency, it's like, oh my gosh, don't touch my IT. But they're very happy to be switching their phones every year and a half. And so getting them in that mindset of thinking that this change is going to be better for them because it's going to offer better capabilities and services, I think is going to be beneficial.
And if I could add on that, so back in 2010, there was an attempt to modernize the FCC website. And that example was a case where there was very little engagement, both of internal stakeholders and outside stakeholders, such that when we arrived, Congress was actually asking, would we actually fix the website by going back to the old 1999 one, which none of us really wanted to do. HTML 3.2 is great, but it's not cutting edge.
Right.
So we were very intentional about, as we updated and refreshed the website, of engaging our stakeholders early and often, both internally and externally, using science as opposed to opinions to feed where should you position certain things on the page, how should you actually design the architecture, what should they be able to click on in 1 click or 2 clicks. And I think that is very much key, especially for something where people are already used to an existing solution. You can't change it overnight and have it be so dramatically different than what they've been doing. You have to involve them in the process of actually helping make the change themselves.
And I think to add to that, it's really that agile process. So we give them a little and show them a little. They like it, they don't like it, and we come back and change it. So I think that helps tremendously. 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 Tremendously.
So our strategy since shortly after my arrival and Christine's arrival has been, we want to ideally go to as much public cloud as possible. And that's including our information that is either law enforcement sensitive or things like that, with the premise that because FCC is so small, even if we took our entire team and had them focus on nothing but cybersecurity, we would not have the number of cybersecurity professionals that public cloud companies, well-known ones, would have. Also, it gives us resiliency. It gives us speed to development. And I think thinking about how modernization funds can assist, we are committed to the path of going to public cloud as much as possible, regardless of whether we get additional funds or not. What the additional funds do is they determine how fast we can get off those systems that are currently at the commercial service provider and move and monetize that by actually having greater efficiencies by going to public cloud.
Right.
So, you have other thoughts?
I would agree. I think that the biggest obstacle to us is really the speed or pace that sometimes we want to move at, and we just can't. And I also think it's also getting the customers and so I'm going to say both customers, internal and external, because while we want to move at that pace, we need to make sure that they're ready to move at that pace and start using the new system both externally and internally. And so we're seeing some of that right now. And so I think it's important having a good balance of getting something ready, showing it, and then rolling something out that everybody is ready to use.
And on that final thought, actually, that's sort of an interesting side effect of modernization. Whereas in the past, IT was probably the holdup to rolling out any new initiative. We now have examples of where people think it's going to take 6 to 9 months, and we've got a working solution in 10 weeks.
Correct.
And so it's actually the programmatic side that has to do the stakeholder engagement
Right.
to handle the change that's coming.